Hello world! We wanted to make a demonstration before we continued on with this video because we kind of described something in our last video that wasn't perfectly clear. So what we've done is we have dug a hole and created a moat on its perimeter that we fill with water. This is kind of what we described in the last video when we said that the Egyptians would carve into the Giza Plateau and created a moat on its perimeter. This is what we believe it would have looked like, just at a much bigger scale.
Okay, the bottom of this moat is not level, but you can tell the blocks are level because they're sitting in the water, and there's approximately a ½ inch of both these blocks out of the water. That way we know that if we were to continue doing this, we would have a flat surface. Now watch what happens when we pull these blocks out of the ground. This one's about 8 inches thick, and this one's about 3 inches thick. Both different thicknesses to accommodate the difference in elevation of the bottom of the moat. We use the water to confirm that we're level.
What they would have done if the blocks weren't perfectly level when they set them down is just started shaving off the top until it matched the rest of the blocks in the moat.
Or shave the bottom of the moat itself. The limestone is a soft stone, so either one would work as long as when they were done, they ended up with all of them at the consistent height based on the water.
Hello world. Thank you for watching video 4 of our pyramid series. If you haven't watched videos 1 through 3, I highly recommend that you pause this video now and go back and watch them, or this video won't make any sense while you're watching. Now, there's one other thing we need to talk about before we continue on, and that is most of the things that happen in this video occur simultaneously with our next video, video 5. However, we split them up just so it's easier for you to follow while you're watching. Now, if you remember from our previous video, we had left off blowing the head off of the original Sphinx. What this allowed them to realize is that air is a huge problem when you're trying to control water. So they needed to get air out of their system.
What they would have wanted to do at this point is move everything to the center of the pyramid. This would be to reinforce their system so they wouldn't be at risk of another explosion. So they would have dug the well shaft off the descending passageway. This explains why the well shaft appears to be an afterthought and is hacked into the existing limestone. They also created the grotto. If you never heard of the grotto, it is a chamber just over halfway up the well shaft that many believe to have no purpose. It also has a single block laying in it. This chamber was extremely important. The block is the exact dimensions of the well shaft above the grotto. And the reason for this is in case they decided to move back to the original shaft closer to the outside of the pyramid, they would have been able to block off the well shaft and reroute the water through the other chamber in the pyramid. Once they finished building the well shaft up to their desired elevation, they would have begun the Queen's Chamber to see if they were above the elevation of the water coming in from Aswan. What would have happened is when the Akhet season hit and water entered the hole up near lake near Aswan, it would have flowed through the system, but they weren't quite high enough. So both air and water would have entered the Queen's Chamber, thrust around in there. Water would have been being punched out of the 8-inch shaft. Probably would have taken a long time for it to settle down, make them fearful that they might have caused damage like they did to the Sphinx.
Now, once this happened, they realized they needed to stop restricting water from flowing until it finally separated with the air in it. So they blocked off the Queen's Chamber tremendously so that no water would ever be able to enter this chamber. They also placed blocks in the 8-inch shafts of the Queen's Chamber. And interestingly enough, the block in the 8-inch shaft on the northern wall of the Queen's Chamber actually has an inscription on it. Now, I'm going to post a link to a video about the pyramid from somebody else. If you watch his video, you'll see that this guy uses a lot of quotes from Herodotus that back up our theory perfectly, if you take them for literal rather than interpretations about the stars. But if you fast forward to the 11-minute mark on the video, he actually translates the inscription on this block. Please watch it if you don't believe us, because you probably won't. The inscription reads, "To come out." If the winding waterway runs parallel and adjacent to the Nile below it, south to north, this would be the exit of a canal flowing through the pyramid. Water would come out at this point.
After they blocked off the Queen's Chamber, they would have begun building the Grand Gallery. This chamber in the pyramid is actually very interesting because there is a clear quality change just under halfway up that has baffled Egyptologists for years. We have been in it and seen it for ourselves. The lower portion is built so well it is actually described as being watertight. However, the top portion of this chamber, although not just thrown together, is made with less precision. We believe the elevation of this quality change is the same elevation as the block in the Queen's Chamber shaft and the same elevation as the water coming out of Aswan during the Akhet season.
After they finished the Grand Gallery, they would have begun building the King's Chamber. The King's Chamber is interesting because it is the only chamber with a shaft that extends out of the pyramid. It is still open today. The reason for this was air relief. This was the air relief chamber for their entire system. After they learned that air was a problem by blowing the head off of the original Sphinx, they knew they needed a way to get air out of their system. Another way to corroborate this is to look at the roof of the King's Chamber. They clearly learned that air can cause a catastrophe, and they didn't want that to happen again, so they reinforced the King's Chamber roof tremendously.
In our previous video, we mentioned we were going to reveal two things in this video. We just showed you the true purpose of the Great Pyramid, air relief. But we still have to reveal the smoking gun. Before I do, I want to back up to the subchamber to correct one misconception that is directly related to the smoking gun. This chamber is commonly described by Egyptologists as being unfinished. Why would the Egyptians build the Great Pyramid but not finish the biggest chamber in it? That doesn't make any sense. In our theory, its condition is caused by erosion. Water flowing through it every year eroded the room, causing its ruined appearance. If you aren't already convinced, you're about to be. I can back up this claim with two bombshells. First, when the subchamber was discovered and explored in recent times, it was described as having a thick layer of mold on its floor. The only way for mold to grow is with water. So water was clearly in the subchamber. The other thing is something I know you've been waiting for, the smoking gun. Here goes. When my son and I first got to Egypt, the first thing we did is we went to the pyramid and we walked the outside entire perimeter, just marveling at its size. And a couple things we noticed. Occasionally, there were blocks that had water erosion and corrosion stains on them. Nothing significant. One here, two here, maybe a half a dozen on each wall. But when we got to the main wall with the swivel door, we noticed from the swivel door on down, every block had erosion, water, and corrosion stains on it. The only way this could have happened is if water was coming out at the swivel door from the Great Pyramid.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for our next video where we continue renovating the Sphinx and finally reveal how their entire system functioned once they completed it.
Thank you.